Alrighty, diagrams. This is something that I use all the time within my videos to visualize complex concepts. And this is something I noticed with a lot of the editors who were coming on board to my team and I was training them. Oftentimes they'll run into a very complex concept and they did not know how to visualize it. And I asked myself, well, what do I do when I come across a complex concept and how do I go about visualizing it? And I realized that I use diagrams a lot. And if you even watch Vox or Iman Ghazi or even Ali Abdaal, you'll notice that they use diagrams a lot. And I was doing some research on why diagrams are great. And I came across this website here explaining that diagrams are handy for conveying complex ideas and loads of information without overwhelming your audience. They can visualize almost anything from numerical data to qualitative relationships, making them versatile tools in numerous fields. So that's why we want to use diagrams. It really takes that complex idea, that complex data, and makes it easy for the viewer to understand. And another thing it does, it makes it easy for you yourself as the editor, as the animator, as the visualizer to just revert back to, hey, this is a complex concept. I'm going to revert back to making this a diagram. And it's just like killing two birds with one stone. It makes it something easy for you to do. And it also makes it very easy for the viewer to understand what's going on. Now I have this video here where we're going to be creating a diagram for. I'm going to have you watch it so you understand the concept of this video. And then there's an area within this video where one of my editors visually showed something and I didn't really like the visual of it. And I'll talk about this as we watch it. I didn't really like the visual of it. And I said, hey, I don't really like this visual. Can you come up with something else? And he was saying, hey, I'm struggling with this part because it's a complex concept. And that's when I'm like, hey, this is the perfect spot for you to make a diagram. And then I thought, why not make this a video, a tutorial to let you know, hey, we should be using diagrams to visualize complex concepts. So let's watch this video. And then we're going to get into visualizing this certain area with a diagram. Imi Ramen is a $4 million ramen company. Let's review their entire marketing funnel and strategy. First, Imi's new offer is their new innovative ramen. It's plant-based with less carbs, less sodium, and more protein. They're able to differentiate themselves from their competitors by making ramen healthy. For the top of the funnel, Imi is doing a couple of things. First, their organic marketing is pretty good. The company isn't trying to sell their product through their content. Rather, they're providing useful recipes you can make with ramen. Right here's the part where I didn't think the editor did a great job accurately showing the concept of what I'm talking about. And the editor agreed here, so I'm not putting him on blast. We figured this out eventually, but let me show you this and you'll see that this isn't really a great representation of what I'm talking about. So I'm gonna go back a little bit. Recipes you can make with ramen. They're focused on community over product. They were focused on community over product. Well, just showing a picture of these people here and then showing a product here didn't show the concept of what I'm talking about. Resorting to a diagram will allow us to show this complex concept because it is complex. And to give a little bit more further insight of what exactly I'm talking about here is that Imi Ramen here, when they're creating their organic content, in doing so, the organic content they created was more community building and not showcasing their product and showing like, oh, this product is great. Here are all the benefits to our product, as that's not really great for organic content. Making content that's community building is a lot better. So we want to show that. And that's what the sentence is talking about right here. So I'm going to play it one more time. Recipes you can make with ramen. They're focused on community over product. Nobody wants to hear about their product. So like I said, they're focusing on creating content that builds community rather than content that just showcases their product all the time. And we want to visually show that. We're going to do that using a diagram. Now, a couple things with diagrams. There's a lot of ways to go about them. I typically stick to the flow chart, but I use all sorts of diagrams and so does Vox and so does Iman Ghazi. And we'll just go over some diagrams that we can look at right here. So one is the flow chart I was talking about where a lot of things are connected with lines. There's some text in there, but instead of using text, I like using icons to visually show what the person's saying. And in this tutorial, we'll be going through this flow chart diagram. Another one is line graphs. You'll see Vox do this a lot, where they'll take numerical data and make it into a line graph or even a bar graph. This is a great way to accurately show data where the viewer can understand what's going on. Bar chart, same thing here, same as line graph pretty much. Circle diagram or pie chart, this is really good. Using a circle diagram or even a pie chart. We all know what a pie chart looks like. And then Venn diagrams. You'll see me use this a lot. This is great for connecting certain ideas or concepts together. We'll use this a lot. I think I've even made a video about Ikigai. That's pretty cool. And then tree diagrams. I don't really use this one too much. Organizational chart. This is pretty much like the flow diagram, and it's kind of like the one we're going to be building out today. I'll link this website and you can read more about diagrams and how to, properly visualize things with diagrams. But let's get into fixing this area up a little bit and showing you how I go about creating a diagram. All right, so I have the sentence here again. I'm going to read it one more time, and we're going to start building this out using a diagram. So they are focused on community over product. In the research and resource video, I talked about how to visualize a certain sentence, and we're going to use those exact same techniques with this one, except we're going to apply these techniques to knowing that, hey, we want to do this as a diagram. We're still going to get inspired by looking up keywords and using the techniques that follow with that. They're focused on community over product. So who's they? That's a keyword. Obviously, EME. So we might want to display that. And focused is another keyword. How can we show that they are focused on what? Community, and the thing that they're not focused on is product. So we need to display these keywords here. But before I do that, I always like tackling the background first, as that sets the aesthetic for everything else. So first thing is I want to copy the aesthetic of the video that we just watched. I'm going to screenshot this because we're going to get the exact color of the background. By the way, if you want to follow along, this is only going to help train your brain even more. So I definitely recommend following along. So I brought it over to my frame here, and I'm going to unlock the background here, double click, go over to color overlay, and then take the eyedropper tool and make this yellow to get that exact color. Then we can delete this here. I think adding a grid will also help pull that effect that we want or the style we want. So I'm going to open that up. I have this white grid here. You'll be able to access this in the assets that we give you later in the editing module. You could skip ahead to that and download it if need be. But I'm going to paste this over, scale it down just a tad bit, or actually I want to scale it up a little bit and center it. I'm going to change the color to more of a dark yellow. So I'm going to eyedropper this yellow and then just make it a little bit darker. Hit OK, then turn down the opacity of it. That looks pretty decent. I'm going to merge this. Then I'm going to go over to filter, noise, add some noise to it. 5 looks pretty good, and I'm going to hit OK. Alrighty, so we now have our background, and it's time to move on to visualizing the keywords and make sure we're visualizing it in that diagram format. So the biggest thing I'm seeing here is community. We want to show a community icon, because if we go over to diagrams, we notice the way diagrams are visualized is in these boxes, and we just want to substitute these boxes with icons to visually show what this box represents, because if it's all just text, it becomes overload for the viewer. They won't be able to read the text in a quick amount of time. So having a icon to represent one of these boxes in a diagram is the best way to go about it. So we're looking for community. I'm just going to look up community. We're using a keyword to research and get some inspiration. There's nothing too great I'm seeing here that's giving me inspiration that also falls within the desired look that we're going for. And the desired look that we are going for is something that I would do on my page, because this is a video that's being worked on for me as we speak. So community, I'm gonna look up community icon, expanding on the word. That's one of the things that I talked about before, is we want to expand upon the word to look up better inspiration. So I'm getting this right here. We for sure can make something look like this. Of course, just downloading this and putting it into our frame, it's gonna look super cheesy. This is another thing I talked about before, how we want to modify this to fit the aesthetic we're going for, but we can use this as inspiration. So I'm going to do just that. In Photoshop, I'm going to grab the rectangle shape builder tool. I'm going to make a rectangle here. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I noticed Iman Ghazi has done this before, where they'll make a rectangle and then put the icons within that rectangle. So I'm going to cancel out the stroke, and I'll make the fill more of a grayish black. What I actually want to do here is make it a gradient. So I'm going to double click, go over to gradient overlay, and I already have the gradient made here. What it is just a lighter gray going over to a darker gray. It's not totally black. And I'm gonna hit OK, make sure it's radial, hit OK, and then turn down the opacity just a little bit here. Probably around 83 is good. Now we're gonna build out the person icon that we see right here, just using this as inspiration. One thing we could do is look up person icon. I like this. It's very high quality. That's another thing. You don't want to be choosing low quality assets, especially things that have watermarks on it. Like this, it looks pretty low quality, and even looking at it, we could tell it's a 500 by 500 icon, that'll look pretty blurry if we put it into our frame. So we only want to choose high quality assets. It's 300 by 400. It might look a little bit blurry. So I'm just going to recreate my own icon here, but we could use this as inspiration for sure. So in Photoshop, I'm going to do the ellipse tool, click and drag while holding shift to make it a perfect circle, cancel out the stroke here and make it a white. From there, I'm going to hold Option and click and drag while holding shift as well. I'm just going to drag it down here. It's duplicating it. That's what Option does while clicking and dragging, and shift holds it within its place. From there, I'm going to stretch this down by holding shift. It allows me to scale things without that uniform scale. So if I hold shift, it's scaling it, making it into an oval, and I'm going to just make it a little bit fatter as well. Next, I'm going to rasterize this layer. Choose our selecting tool or marquee tool. A little bit above halfway, I'm going to make a selection and hit delete. Doesn't look entirely perfect here. I'm going to drag this down a little bit more, and then the head definitely needs to be scaled down a little bit. And the reason why I know this icon looks pretty good is if we look at this one, we can look at the proportions and copy it. That's what I'm doing here, is really just copying this icon. And then if we go back, I'm now going to build this out a little bit. Before we actually do that, let's make it fall within the aesthetic we want. So I'm going to merge these two layers. I'm going to hold Command on my Mac. On PC, it is either Option or Control. And once you hold Command on a Mac, you'll see the selection cursor pop up. So if I go over, that selection box pops up. I'm going to click on it and you'll see that our layer is now selected. With that, I'm going to hit B on my keyboard. Make sure the size is turned up quite a bit. Hardness is 0. And then the mode is dissolve. Then I'm going to go over to my color selector, select the white here, but then drag down the color to make it a little bit darker, hit OK, and then we can start painting. What we're doing here is just building a little bit of a shadow effect. I'm going to do this one more time, just dragging down the color. And there we go. We have this gritty icon that falls within the aesthetic that we want. I'm going to bring this over to my box, and then we're going to start building this style out. So I'm going to hold down Option, click and drag this and bring it to the left and up a little bit, and then we want to make sure it's behind that first layer. I want to do the same thing with the icon but on the right. To do that, I'm going to duplicate this one by holding Option, but I'm also going to hold down Shift and drag it to the right. That's going to allow it to stay within the same plane, so it's not, moving around, and we could line it up pretty nice here. We're going to do this one more time on both sides. So I'm going to hold down Option on this one, drag it out and up, and then make sure it's behind everything. Then hold down Option and Shift, drag it to the right. There we go. Looks pretty good. One thing we could do, I've seen Iman Ghazi do this before, and that's why it's important to study others, take their styles. One thing that he has done is just turn down the opacity of this. So I'm going to change it to 85, change this one to 85 as well, then change this one to 75. So going down by 10, and this one to 75 as well. From there, I'm going to uncheck this rectangle because I don't want to scale it down just yet. I just want to scale. We're locking the background here to then scale these down. So we can just highlight everything and scale it pretty well. Then I'm going to recheck the rectangle here and make it fit within this pretty well. One thing I think we could do with this rectangle is add a little bit of a stroke to it. So I'm going to double click, go over to stroke and put this white stroke on it. So around 4 pixels and keep the color white. So we have the community visualized here, and we're still building out the diagram. We know that diagrams are connected with lines, so we need to build other icons to connect it. One thing though that is important here is focused on community. How can we show that this community is the main focus? One way to do that is either creating a circle around it, but I don't think it really fits because we already have a rectangle around these icons. So I'm going to create a star to show, hey, this is the thing that we want to focus on. So what I'm doing is going over to my shape tool here, going over to polygon, and then I'm going to click. You're not going to click and drag, just click once and it'll bring up these settings here. I'm going to keep the number of sides at 8, the corner radius at 0, star ratio at 40%, and then keep these at 100 right here. Just copy this if you're following along and then hit OK. From there, I'm going to just click and hold Shift to scale this uniformly. And then I'm going to change the stroke to nothing and then the fill to a grayish black. I'm going to scale it up a little bit more. I think I'm going to add a gradient to this as well. So I'm double clicking, going over to gradient overlay. And I already like the gradient that's on here. Just maybe mess with the scaling of it. Go into the gradient and mess with this little thing right here. Hit OK and then scale it up a tad bit more. Hit OK and that looks pretty good. I'm going to drag this over here to the left and make sure it's under everything. We now have our community icon. One thing I'm going to do is just scale it down even more. This is a really important note. Scaling things down makes it fit within the frame, because as we see, it's the same exact thing here, but it's just bigger within the frame. But as soon as I highlight it all and scale it down, it all of a sudden makes it feel a little bit more premium. That's a note. So if you're working on a frame and it doesn't seem that premium, scaling things down can achieve that premium effect if you make it fall within the aesthetic, of course. All right, so we have our community icon. The next thing to focus on is the product keyword. All right, so we want to show the product. Of course, this video is about Imi Ramen. So the best way to show Imi Ramen is not create an icon, is to actually just show their product that we're talking about. So I'm going to find that online. So here we go. I found a product and I'm going to download this and bring it into Photoshop. Okay, now that I have this in Photoshop, it's obviously blending in with the background a little too much. So we need to do some things that make it visually pleasing on screen. I think one thing is adding a shadow to it. So I'm going to double click, go down to drop shadow. And the settings I have in are already pretty good. You can copy this if you're following along, and I'm gonna hit OK. Looks a little bit better. I think one thing we could do is add a circle around it. So I'm gonna go over to my shape tool, go to ellipse, and then hold down shift and drag to create a perfect circle. Change the stroke to nothing. Change the fill to, let's go for a blue here. I'm gonna hit OK to make sure this is under our thing. Scale this down a little bit. And then to make it fall within the aesthetic a little bit more, I'm gonna click on my ellipse shape here, right click on the layer, rasterize layer, and then I'm gonna do the selection of it. So I'm holding down Command on Mac, going over to my ellipse layer, going over to the image within that layer and clicking. And then it's gonna select the circle here. I'm gonna hit B on my keyboard, and then I'll make sure I'm gonna scale this up a little bit, make sure the hardness is at 0, keep it at dissolve, then go over to the color selector tool. I drop the background here and then change the color to a darker blue just by dragging it down and then start painting. I'm gonna do this one more time, just dragging down the blue color to make it darker, and we're building out this shadow effect here. Looks pretty good. Hit Command D, and then I'm gonna scale this down. Okay, so one thing that's important here is we need to visualize they, right? They are focused on building community over product. So another part of this is really understanding the concept of the video. When we watched it before, you realize that I'm talking about how they're marketing their content or how they're marketing their organic content. So we want to show that, hey, Imi, as in they, are choosing to use community building organic content rather than creating content that just talks about the product. And we're doing this in a diagram way. So we still need to visualize they, and we want to visualize that they are doing community content. So we need a visual for content and they. So obviously for they, we could just do their logo. And then for content, we could do a video icon. So that's part of like understanding the concept of the video. And then expanding upon words here is they is just their logo. And then video content could just be a video icon. So I'm going to look that up for inspiration. Let's look up video icon. Right off the bat, I'm getting this right here. And as I talked about before, if I just downloaded this and put it into my frame like I'm going to do now, it's going to end up looking pretty cheesy. As you see, as soon as I put it within my frame, it automatically makes everything feel cheesy because this is a cheesy icon. Now it's a high quality icon, meaning that the pixel resolution of it is high quality, and that's why I downloaded it and not recreated it. But to make it not feel cheesy, we need to have it fall within the aesthetic we want. So what I'm going to do here is click on the layer, make a selection over it by hitting Command and selecting this picture here. And then I'm going to hit B on my keyboard. I'm going to click on the black and then choose a lighter black, more of a grayish black. Just scale this down a little bit and start to fill this in. I think I want to go a little bit bigger and then also more of a lighter gray for sure. There we go. Now I'm going to mix this with a little bit more of a darker gray. We're just adding this grunge effect to it to make it fall within that aesthetic we really want. And there we go. It instantly looks a lot better. Scale it down a little bit. And then we want the Imi icon to represent they. So I'm gonna look that up, Imi. And then we got this one right here where we could download this. I actually don't want to download this because if we look at it, it's a low quality asset. Downloading things like this is gonna make it look blurry within our frame. Now, if this is the last resort thing, you can use it. But since we have one right here that's super high quality, all we need to do is download it and then remove the background, and I'm going to do exactly that. So I have the logo opened up here in my frame. We're going to hit the remove background in the quick actions. You can see it removed all the white on the outside, but we're still having some issues on the inside. So I'm going to go over to my wand tool and then click the white and then hit delete. And there we go. The entire background is removed. There's no need to really mess with the logo here because it's their logo. It looks like this for a reason. So I'm just going to downscale it, put it next to this right here. I think we need to add one more step to this. If we look at classic diagrams here, we notice they keep things within circles or boxes. So let's do that as well. I'm going to take my rectangle tool here and create a box around it, make the edges a little bit more rounded. And then I'm going to keep the stroke here at 6. So we're starting to build out this diagram. Of course, one of the main things of a diagram is they have these connections here with lines. We want to do exactly that. I'm going to make those connections. So understanding the sentence as well, they focused on community over product. So we don't want to make a connection of EME focusing on the product here. We just want to make a connection that, hey, EME is focusing on the community with their content. So we're just going to draw a line from this here to the community icon. To do that, hit P on your keyboard. It's going to bring up the pen tool. And then what we can do is make sure it's on shape. And I'm going to click once here in the middle. And then I'm going to click at the icon here to create this line. What we can do is then change this line to 6 to match the same width as the other one that we created, the rectangle. Hit enter. Then we're going to change the line to a dotted line. It's still looking a little off in my opinion. This needs to be aligned right here. And what we can do is scale it down. As I said before, making things fit comfortably in the frame is really important. Scaling it down, making things smaller, achieves that effect. You always don't want to make it too small, but I think this looks pretty good right here. So I'm going to make some text to go along with the icon here. So let's do community. And then I'm going to duplicate this and call this one product. And there we go. We just created a diagram that visually showed the concept of this sentence here. As I was saying before, this is a little bit of a difficult thing to visually represent, but if you run across something that is visually hard to represent, just resort to going to a diagram and picking keywords, visually showing those keywords, and then making it all connect in a diagram way. I have one more concept that we're going to visually show using a diagram just to really drive in the point and how I do this and how important it is to use diagrams to visually show things. So within this sentence, we have, they also retarget anyone who watches their organic content with ads. So we know who they is, which is EME Ramen. And then if we just break this down a little bit, retarget anyone. So who's anyone who watches the organic content? So anybody who watches organic content. So we want to show people here, and we want to show organic content, and then we also want to visually show ads. And we're going to make this in a diagram. So I'm going to start off with the background as usual, as it sets the tone for the aesthetic of the video. So I'm going to unlock the background, double click, and I'll make a gradient here. I actually really like how this is already set up with this gradient. Maybe just scale it up a tad bit. If you're following along, it's just a light gray and going to a darker gray here. I'm going to add a grid, see how that looks. We already have this grid open. Gonna copy and paste that, shrink this down quite a bit, and then we're gonna turn the opacity down. Right there is pretty good. I'm gonna merge these two layers, and then we're gonna add a noise filter to it. So go over to filter, noise, add noise, and then 5 looks pretty good. I'm gonna lock this layer. All right, so we have the background, and we can start building out that diagram. So they also retargeted anyone who watches their organic content with ads. So we want to visually show anyone who watches their organic content. So we already have people here. And I'm going to just copy this for tutorial purposes to make things quick. I'm going to get rid of this star here. I'm going to duplicate this. Just kind of make a group here to show that, hey, there's a lot of people watching their organic content. What we need to build out now is that diagram showing the representation of organic content. People are watching the organic content, connecting those icons with lines, and then they're retargeting with ads. So connecting these people right here who are watching the organic content that we're going to show up top here with ads that we're going to show down below here. And we're going to make it look like a diagram. So one thing I'm going to do is just show a video icon here. I'm going to grab my rectangle tool, make a rectangle here, just make the edges rounded, undo the stroke. And then I want to make that fill yellow to stick within that style that we're going with. And this looks pretty decent, but we want to show organic. Organic's a very key term here. How can we show this video icon as it being a organic video icon? Well, let's use research to get some inspiration to do that. So I'm going over to Google. I'm going to search up organic. Looking at organic, we're getting some inspiration here. I'm already seeing some leaves here that would look good. One thing that's really important is I'm looking for things that fall within the aesthetic that we're going for. Obviously, something like this is nowhere close to the aesthetic that we want. Something like this may look like something that Iman Ghazi would use or Vox would use. Even something like this here. Let's look up organic icon. So like I said, it's really important to expand upon the word using other keywords. Immediately right off the bat, we're getting these leaves here. So we could download this, but it would be pretty cheesy because it's not a high quality asset. As you see, it's only 200 by 200. Something like this is very high quality. As we see, it's 5,512 by 5,512. But we don't want to just slap this badge on it, because if we think about it, would Vox or would Iman Ghazi use a badge that looked like this? The answer is no. It just really doesn't fall within their aesthetic, but these leaves do. So we can crop out these leaves here and just keep them and put it within our video icon. So I'm going to save this, open it up on Photoshop, dragging this over. You can see it's a really high quality asset. Scaling it down because we know, being a student of the game and studying Iman, studying myself, studying Vox, they would never have a badge that looked like this. So I'm going to take the wand tool and click on the green. Hit delete, click on the white on the outside, hit delete. We could click on the green again, just delete as much as we can. And then I'm gonna hit the E key on my keyboard. That's gonna bring up the erase tool, make sure it is at 100%, and then start erasing anything we don't need. All right, this is great. The only problem is I see a little bit of green right here, but this is just a simple fix. We're gonna double click, go over to color overlay and change this to a grayish black. We don't want to go all the way black because if we studied Vox, we know that they never use just straight up black. They always use this grayish black. So that's why I'm doing it, because they already figured out, hey, this grayish black looks a whole lot better than black, you know? We're sticking with this grayish black, hit okay. And we're going to bring this over to our video icon here. Just scale it down, make sure it fits in there nicely. Now I'm going to create a couple of these just to show that they're posting a lot of organic content just by duplicating, holding shift, moving it to the right, and make sure the spacing is the same. Going to duplicate this row just to make some more. Scale this down a whole bunch more. And there we go. Looks pretty good. Now we need to show that this is connecting, because the way diagrams are represented or visually represented is through connecting lines. So we want to show that as well. So I'm going to hit P on my keyboard, make sure it is in shape, click once here in the middle, hold down shift to create a straight line and click. And it's going to create a line here. You can't really see it. We're going to change it to white. We're also going to make sure this is a dotted line. Then I'm going to change the stroke to about, let's see here, 4 looks pretty good, 4.68. From there, we can duplicate this by holding Option on a Mac keyboard, clicking on this, holding Shift and dragging it to the left. What I'm actually going to do is rotate this. I'm holding down Shift as I rotate it to get a 45 degrees angle perfectly. And then what we can do is just expand upon this to make it reach the other icon. From here, we can hold down Option to duplicate, click and drag this and holding Shift. I'm going to hit Command T on Mac to bring up this selection tool so we can just easily modify it. But what I'm going to do is right click, hit flip horizontal, and now it's perfectly flipped horizontally. And now it's a mirror of this one right here. So we show that it's connecting just like a diagram would. But the last thing we need to do is visually show ads. To do that, we can take the same concept of an organic video icon, except instead of showing that it's organic with this little leaf thing here, we could just write ads in it to show, hey, that this icon is a video ad. So I'm going to copy this over by holding Option and dragging it. I'm going to scale it up a little bit more. I'm going to change the color just to show that it's a little bit different. We could use this blue. And then I'm just going to type ads here. I think that's the best way to show that it is an ad icon. Scale it up a little bit. I'm going to round it off just a tad bit more. And I think changing this to a grayish black will make it look a little bit better. That's pretty good. And then we're just going to duplicate this and only create 3. Make sure that this is in the middle here. I'm going to also group the ads here. And the reason why I'm doing that, as explained before, if we look up diagram, a lot of times they'll have a rectangle and the text in it. In this case, we have a rectangle or a circle, but with an icon in it. So we want to create that rectangle or circle here to show that, hey, these are grouped together. So I'm just taking the ellipse tool and making an oval here, changing the stroke color to a white. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller here. And I'm going to just put this ellipse tool behind all the icons here. There we go. That looks pretty good. I'm just going to highlight everything and downscale it a little bit more, put it in the middle. The last thing to do is connect these people who watched the organic content to the retargeted ads. What we can do is completely copy these lines here. So I'm going to highlight all of them, hold down Option on my keyboard, click and drag one of them and just drag it out here. Then I'm going to hit Command T. I'm going to right click, flip vertically, and then just line it up. And then what we could do here is just take these ads and bring it down a little bit. I'm not sure if I'm liking this whole diamond effect that's happening here, so I'm just going to delete these outer ones since this is grouped here. Last thing to do is highlight these and merge it because we're going to downscale it and we don't want the rounded edges to change as we downscale it. So merge it. We're going to do the same for these, merge these. We can merge this as well. And then I'm going to highlight everything and then downscale it. As I stated before, when you downscale it, it makes it feel a lot more premium. Just a quick example, I'm going to undo this and scale it up a little bit more. Pay attention to the look of this to now the look of this. This looks a lot more premium and easier to just see everything. Like I said, scaling things down makes things feel a lot more premium. And the way we're going to animate this is not showing everything right out the gate. Because if we did that, it's just way too much information. Just going back to a diagram, looking at this right away, we can't visually understand everything that's within this diagram right off the bat. It's easier if everything just popped up one by one. So if this popped up, then this popped up, and then this popped up as the speaker was speaking, the viewer can easily follow like, hey, this is organic content. Obviously, this is popping up. I'm just focused on that. Oh, then the people who are watching the organic content is popping up a little bit later. I can then focus on that, and then this pops up, and then they could focus that on that as well. That's one important thing about diagrams and animating them, is making sure that not everything is popping up all at once. Otherwise, it becomes an information overload for the viewer. But diagrams are great ways of accurately showing a concept. And it's something that you always want to go back to if you get stuck in visualizing a certain concept. If you watch my videos and you watch Vox videos or even Iman Ghazi, they use diagrams a lot because they know diagrams are a great way to display a concept that is hard for somebody to understand or a concept that's hard to visualize in general. So always revert back to a diagram if need be. Of course, don't overuse it, but definitely use it if you run into a problem where you're like, I have no idea how to visualize this hard concept. So there's diagrams for you. It's definitely an option for you to use. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video.